My name's Anders Varner, host of the Barbell Shrugged podcast, and in this week's episode, I'm giving you my top 5 exercises for building big quads, because no matter who you are, where you're at, and what kind of equipment you have no excuses for not having super jacked legs. Don't forget, get into the bio. Don't forget, right now, in the description is the Imam Aesthetics Method. That's a free ebook that you can download that has 7 free workouts in it. It's my workout program. It involves all of the exercises we're going to go over today. And our mantra and our number one goal is to get you strong, lean, and athletic without spending 60 to 90 minutes in the gym. I'm a dad. I own a business. I don't have time anymore. When I was a pure strength athlete, I would train all day long, but I can't do it anymore. I got things to do. I got a kid. I got to be a husband. I got a business to run. I got things to do. That's why we created Imam Aesthetics, for busy people that want to be strong, they want to be lean, and they want to be athletic, and they can't spend 60 to 90 minutes in the gym. Let's go. This week on Imam Aesthetics, we're giving you the top 5 exercises for building big quads, so everybody in the gym knows when you walk in and your pants are all filled out that you've been putting your work in. But check it out. The thing about quad exercises is that they're really tricky unless you have specific tools. If you're at home, if your gym is closed for some reason, if you don't have access to a lot of equipment, just because equipment's hard to find, it's expensive, and because lockdowns are still in place, you may not have access to a gym. You definitely might not have access to a leg extension machine, and for the most part, finding barbells is really challenging right now. So we have to give you some options. Even if you don't have any access to equipment at all, we still need to have a body weight exercise that you can do that targets the quads. Its largest function is knee extension, right? When we go here, this would be knee flexion, this is knee extension. When you do that, you will feel your quad turn on. So one exercise that you can do that is incredibly challenging, targets the quads 100%, is called a sissy squat. It's not the greatest name in the world. I don't know why they call it sissy squats. It's so weird that they would call something a sissy squat, but who cares? That's what the name of them is. And what I want you to do, you're going to start with your feet under your hips. You're not going to be in a squat stance. You're going to be with your feet directly underneath your hips. I want you to raise onto your toes as high as you can. And from here, you can put your arms out. That's really just going to be like a counterbalance, because what we're about to do is send our knees forward, keeping our hip extended as much as possible by squeezing our glutes on the way down. Our core is going to be engaged the entire time, and we're going to push our back towards the wall. Now you will see that as I go down, I'm putting a big stretch in here. Everything is nice and tight, and this is a very challenging move. Ideally, I'm able to get all the way down to the ground while maintaining an open hip. Now, if you have knee problems, this is going to be a little funky. If you have knee issues, I don't want you to do this. If you have healthy knees and you've been training and you feel comfortable on your toes squatting like that, get after it. This exercise is for you. Even if you have a very advanced strength training career, get after it. We love this. If you do not have immediate knee pain, you just don't have the strength to get down there, it's really easy to either grab a band, grab a pole. You want to grab something to hold on to just spot yourself. You don't want it to be too easy, but it's nice to be able to hold on to something. I can use this band where it even gives a little flexibility on my way down, but we can sit all the way back, and you can see the further back I go, the bigger the stretch, and then stand back up. That probably is the most effective way for me to do these. It's going to put the biggest stretch on my quad as I go down, and then that contraction on the way up, extending my knee. It's a phenomenal exercise, and if you can get 8 reps of those and maintain the form, what's beautiful about them is that you're putting a ton of tension on the muscle. On top of that, we've got a ton of muscle tissue that's going to get broken down. It's impossible to do those when you do not have a nice tempo on the way down. Just being able to keep your core tight, staying on your toes, staying nice and balanced, is just not a movement that you're going to be able to go fast while you're doing. Now, in a perfect rep, we're going to get our knees all the way to the ground. Remember, we're all the way up. We squeeze our butt. That's going to keep our hips open. Ribs are down. We want to keep our abs on the entire time. Arms are out in front for a counterbalance. Back to the wall, knees go forward, open hip, onto the toes, and then stand. Ideally, we're able to get our knees all the way to the ground, which is why I typically use this band to go all the way up. And now I've just got a little bit of help on the way down for that big stretch of my quads, and then extend up. My recommendation is to get 3 to 4 sets of 6 to 8 reps in there. If you're at home and you don't have a lot of equipment, this is a great way to get a lot of mechanical tension. If you can do them for higher reps, the muscular stress is going to be great in there because that stretch down at the bottom is crazy hard, and just the tempo that's going to be a part of it, you're going to break down a lot of tissue. It's a great way to build muscle and bring in some quad hypertrophy without a lot of equipment. The second exercise that we're going to talk about in developing your quads is going to be the sandbag front squat. And the reason we do sandbag squats is because there is literally no reason why you cannot go make a sandbag. It doesn't have to be this beautiful sandbag that I have. I'm lucky enough to have 3 of them in my garage. But you can go and get a bag of sand from the hardware store, tape it up so it doesn't break on you. You can go get sand in backpacks if you have a big old backpack and you want to put something together. It's literally the single piece of equipment that everyone should own, everyone should have one, and there's no excuses not to be able to load sand or heavy rocks or something into a bag, secure it so you can pick it up and sit down with it. Now, there is some advantages to having the sandbag. One of those advantages is that in order to actually perform any movements with the sandbag, because it's such an awkward object, is that you really have to pull it in. And what happens when you pull it into your body is that you bring those shoulders back, your upper body stays in a really good position for an upright torso in the squat. You also are going to be forced to engage your abs the entire time. It's just impossible to hold that in as tight as you can without turning your core muscles on. So if you ever back squat and you kind of just let loose a little bit and you can kind of feel your background, but you know your legs are strong enough to clean the weight, that's awesome in a back squat because it rests across your shoulders. With a sandbag, as soon as you relax, it's going to fall. There's just no way to hold it unless you're holding it tightly. So this is about a 100-pound bag, and I love the sandbag squat because we can pick it up here, our normal squat stance, and then because we're holding it in, everything's on and my torso stays as upright as I possibly can. And then as I extend, we're getting that knee extension and into the quad. Depending upon the amount of weight that you have in your sandbag, sometimes I'll grab the 150, this is 100. I like to stay in about the 12 to 15 range. That is going to be in that big muscular stress, working on getting a big pump, a lot of blood flow into the quads. And because the anatomy, unlike with the sissy squat, the anatomy and being able to have this big upright torso and actually maintain a really good squat position, and it counterbalances you so it's easier to sit back, getting full depth down at the bottom. I love the sandbag squats. I do them multiple times a week. I think you should stay somewhere in that 12 to 15 rep range, depending upon how heavy your bag is. 3 to 4 sets is usually pretty good, and I cannot recommend investing in some sandbags, making your own, but making sure that you can have something that really engages your core, keeps your chest upright when you squat, so you can get full depth down at the bottom of that squat and really get a quad pump on the way up. Third exercise that I want to go over is the landmine hack squat. And why I love the landmine hack squat is that at the bottom, you're able to have a very controlled descent into the movement. You get a big quad stretch, the knee gets over the toe, so you're able to feel that big stretch, and then the contraction at the top. The angle of the bar while using a landmine just always works so well for hitting specific muscle groups. Sometimes the barbell just doesn't fit well with people, and a landmine turns out to be a great exercise tool to create an arc with the bar that just really helps people move well. I have it jammed into a sandbag right now. A lot of times I'll just use an old shoe and jam it into the corner. But the thing about using a landmine that's so rad, right? We come up, you can put this on your shoulder here, lean back into the weight, and then from here, driving the knees forward as much as possible. You can let the knees lead, where if in a back squat, you want to have your hips being the majority of the moving, especially early in the movement. But from here, we want to push the knees forward as much as we can. Big stretch in the quad, stand up, knee extension at the top, get a big squeeze in the glute. Now, the reason you would want to do this is if you have a barbell, you have some weights. However, a squat rack's really hard to come across. You may have a barbell but no squat rack, so the idea of squatting is just not in the equation. This is going to be the perfect tool for you to actually be able to get your quad exercises in, and it's going to be safe, it's going to be effective, efficient. I highly recommend using reps of 12 to 15. It can be a little bit awkward if you have, say, I've got 145 on here, but if I had 2 or 3, 4 45s on here, the hard part isn't going to be squatting it. The hard part is going to be actually picking it up, getting it onto your shoulder in a safe position. So because of that, there's a limiting factor there that you don't really have a lot of control over, but it's still a great exercise. Lighten the weight, increase the load, more mind-muscle connection. It's a much better tool if you don't have a squat rack, you have a barbell, you have some weights, and you want to get a good pump in your quads. Number 4 is going to be the trusty front squat. Now, when we do a back squat, the reason I'm choosing the front squat over the back squat, specifically when we're talking about the quads, is because as we front load the quads in the same way that we were doing it with the sandbag in number 2, when we front load the weight, it's a lot easier for us to keep an upright torso. When we keep an upright torso, the knee has to shoot forward to counterbalance where our torso's at, and you're going to get more of a quad focus in that squat. In a back squat, you often will initiate pushing your hips back really far, therefore your torso is over, and you're just going to get less quad stretch and less targeting of the quads in a back squat. So in the front squat, I recommend, if you can and have the prerequisite mobility to do it in the front rack, that be the position that you take out. We're going to walk it out, feet just outside our hips. We can sit straight down, pushing the knees forward, all the way down, all the way up. And as you come up, specifically because we are targeting and talking about the quads, as you come up, emphasize that terminal extension. You want your knee, you want your quads to be extending your knee, so when you get there, feel that big pump and feel the big tension at the top, flex your quad in that position, and it creates a really good mind-muscle connection in the front squat for you to be able to do it. If for some reason you do not have the mobility and it's really uncomfortable for you to try, I highly recommend moving to this cross grip. It's the same movement, but you're going to be walking it out from here with your arms crossed over, chest stays big, all the way down, and then squat. Again, if there is a rep range that's perfect for these, now is the time to kind of play with, do you want to lift a lot of weight, somewhere in the 2s, 3s, and 5s, or do you want to go for more of a hypertrophy effect and be in that 7, 8 to 15 range? The front squat's going to be the first one that you're going to be in a mechanical tension ability. The landmine, it's just too awkward to pick up. The sandbags really awkward to pick up, and it's just hard to hold. And then doing a body weight sissy squat, you're just not loading the muscle. So front squat, if you have the equipment, is going to be probably your best option for growing quads, building quads, making your quads huge. You really need to add a lot of mechanical tension to your legs to make them strong. However, if you do not have any equipment, that's why we built this from body weight to some weight to having a barbell to now we're at the front squat. This is my number 1 right here, mainly because I have a barbell and I'm lucky enough to have a bunch of weights. And then everything else becomes an accessory off of this. So if you want to get strong, 2s, 3s, and 5s. If you want to build muscle, work on hypertrophy, stay in that 8 to 15 range. Either way, make sure your knees are getting out over your toes so you can feel that stretch in your quad. Make sure your core stays tight throughout the entire movement, and make sure your torso stays upright. That way, you're optimizing the focus on the quad in the front squat. And now we're gonna get into exercise 5, which is my very first unilateral one, the split squat. So for number 5, we brought over the bench, and what we're going to be doing here is Bulgarian split squats, rear foot elevated split squats, whatever you want to call them. But the idea is that we're going to take this bar out on our back. One foot is going to come back. We're going to sit all the way down, try to touch this knee to the ground, get as much of a stretch here as possible. I love using unilateral exercises. Finding and eliminating asymmetries, imbalances, any of that is going to be done by doing unilateral work. And you have to do it because you need to feel how much stronger one side is than the other. There's only one way to get there, is to try to do it. So when we start to focus on our quads, doing a rear foot elevated split squat is an awesome exercise. There isn't a ton of research done on unilateral exercises for quads. However, this is basically a squat on one leg. We just happen to have one back. Your rear foot does do a little bit of work on this, but if we can focus on driving that knee forward instead of sending the hips back, we'll be able to target the quad a little bit more. And if you want to take this to the next level, you can elevate your front foot, which will give you a larger range of motion down, more quads, everything's going to work out a little bit better. For right now though, we're going to take this bar out. We're going to walk it forward. The foot comes back. You're going to be about 1.5 feet off of the bench, sitting all the way down, and you can feel as that knee extends forward, as the knee flexes and goes over the toe, that quad gets a stretch, then we get a nice pump, and you can immediately feel yourself working your quads. Those are the top 5 exercises for building big, strong quads. All the way from body weight with no equipment, all the way up to a unilateral exercise, which requires a squat rack, a bar, and a bench. No matter who you are, where you're at, or what you have for equipment, there's no reason why you should not be able to build strong, lean, athletic quads without spending 60 to 90 minutes in the gym. In fact, in the description right now, the Imam Aesthetics Method, I'm gonna send you 7 workouts to your email right now using the Imam Aesthetics Method. And in that method, our goal is to get you strong, lean, and athletic, effectively, efficiently, without spending 60 to 90 minutes in the gym. It's my training program because I don't have time to spend that much time and energy in the gym. I want to get in, I want to get out, I want to be strong, I want to be lean, I want to be athletic, I want to be efficient, effective, and I don't want to spend 60 to 90 minutes in the gym. And that's why we built Imam Aesthetics